there's the avant-garde composer John Cage, and John Cage's whole theory is that everything's music. And at the time that he was saying this and playing the table and the cups and all these different kinds of things and finding different sounds, this was a new kind of idea. And now that kind of notion is not, like this out there really wacky thing. Everybody goes, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? That's all, everyone participates. So the notion that everything is, that kind of feeling, that kind of notion that John Cage had as a creator is inherent in children. And regardless of where they are, it's going to be there, it's going to come up. And the fact is that if a child's here in this kind of environment, it gets to blossom. And even though it might feel like you have to be hands off in this process as a parent, there's so many opportunities to watch that blossoming, to watch those inherent, intrinsic curiosities and just wonderful little adventures that each person's going to have. There are places and vantage points to see that from. And sometimes you have to ask. Sometimes you have to say, so what's going on? What did you do today? And sometimes they might not want to say. But just to know that those things are always happening because they're children and they're in an environment where they're respected as children, as people. They're not looked down upon. Just to know that, I would hope that that would give a peace of mind to a parent, because if you're given that as a child, if you are given respect as a human being, as a 7-year-old, then you will walk into a university or a place of business as a 27-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 60-year-old, still holding that notion and idea of respect and camaraderie that you had when you were 7.
Touching on what Ben said, in that everything is music, I believe the same is applied to education. Everything is education. Living and existing is education. One of the great things about this school, and especially I know in the time that I went, there were so many things I learned from my peers when I first came in. Things that, there was always something going on. There was always an event or some project going on that even through walking the halls, you soaked things in. You learned by association. There is a sponge-like mentality to, even if you just exist here, you are going to gather information and experiences. As far as advice to parents, it would be the same advice I would give any parent outside of this school. Patience, unwavering patience, because it's not always going to be easy. And coming here and sending your kids here is a leap of faith and an act of trust. And some days that's going to be harder, and some days that's going to be scarier, and some days it's going to be downright terrifying. But you have to have trust, and you have to have patience, and I genuinely believe that all of your children are going to end up being wonderful people, and all you really have to do is let them.
This is a place that I've known for more than half of my life in some way. And the years that I've been away from it, I've always just called it school. There's no other place that I'm ever just going to say school casually. And that's because it's not just a school, as Richard states. This is a community. This is a family. both my parents are educators, and my mother always says it takes a village to raise a child, and Fairhaven is that village.
I mean, to even add to that, I was at my work today, and people asked me why I had dressed a little nicer than I necessarily would every day. They asked me where I was going, what I was doing, and I recall having this moment of pride and this smile and saying, I'm going to speak at my school. And I went here, I only went here 3 years, and I spent the majority of my education, theoretically, homeschooling. That was about 7 years. But this place, not just because it was the only place I really spent a large majority of time that was a school, but this place more than any other place was a place in which I learned and defined myself, and this place will always be my school. And I believe Ben was touching on it earlier when he was talking about this place promoting a sense of responsibility, of being given the freedom, and freedom going in hand with a sense of responsibility that you need to take care of yourself and take care of the things around you. And part of one of the seeds I ended up having bloom in me was a need to come back here and be a part of the alumni committee and be involved, because I love this place and I want it to continue to be and to flourish, and I want people here now and in the future to be able to have the experiences we were so what's the word I want, that we were so lucky to have.
For me, the reason the school is special is because of you and your children. The fact that you are here right now, you are concerned enough, engaged enough, committed enough to your children to want to be involved in their schooling, but you also have the extraordinarily rare combination of being engaged and committed and concerned, but also trusting your children and wanting them to be able to feel the liberty of making decisions in their own life, even as they are still children. That is a vanishingly rare combination of emotions and feelings to have in a family. And this is a community that not only permits that, but encourages and allows that to flourish. And that society is what sets this school and other Sudbury model schools so very far apart from anything else. That it's community that is not really found in any other philosophical subculture that I would find. And also the fact that, I mean, for me, and this is what I always feel, I always say once you go to Fairhaven, I mean, once Fairhaven, always Fairhaven. Like, you cannot leave. Like, I don't think anyone who would want to could leave the school behind. It's a part of who they are and becomes so intensely a part of that. I don't even know if this would be too much, but it's really, really, really important to me, and it's a symbol of what Fairhaven is to me and my family, at least, that I mentioned Tim. But so this is really recent, but it's how important it is to me, and I think my family especially too. My brother was a student of this school as well, and he actually died last month. But as I was going around and letting his friends know, I told Richard and I told Brett, and Richard, being a staff member, he immediately, like the minute that I hung up on the phone, apparently he started calling other Fairhaven alumni, people who had been with my brother in school, and almost immediately they put together a memorial service, and there was a huge, amazing bonfire here at the school where people who had known my brother and who had been with us together in our schooling, we came together and we shared memories of my brother and what he'd done with our lives, what he did as a part of the school community, and who he was with all of us. And we spent the whole night just doing that. And it was, my mother came down and she spoke to people, and it was incredibly powerful and significant to her. And I think it was one of the more important steps in her healing process. And so that's just an example to me of this is more than just a school. It's not somewhere you send your kids during the day to keep them out of trouble. It's not someplace you go as a college prep course. It's not someplace that you just go hoping they'll make a grade. It is someplace that you go because they can live here. And this is a part of their lives that they're living as they're growing up. And that's what sets the school apart for me, is that I know that none of his other schools would have had a bonfire for him. Nobody else would have come to do that. But Fairhaven community, we have that and we can. And that's what's important to me. So thank you all for being a part of that.